Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week, it's going to be the turn of Nick Nicely, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all the other groovy stuff. Has made a lot of albums since the late 70s, including the classic single DCT Dreams and also Hilly Fields. So, and he's done lots of other musical projects. So you're going to get a flavour of all that information in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the, yes, you've guessed, the early formative years. Nick, it's over to you.
Yeah, 60s radio.
Right. Because you were born, you were born 1959, weren't you?
Yeah, but I also had brothers. And so I was immersed in 60s pop music from very early on. I was taking NME when I was 4 and just took to it, just...
Yeah, so how old
completely.
What was the age difference with your brothers?
They were 12 and 10 years older.
Right, there was quite a gap. So were you the youngest?
There was.
Are you the youngest of 3?
4.
Right.
Yeah.
4 brothers. Well, I'm the youngest of 3, and there was quite a gap. So it's kind of interesting.
So I would hear, going back as far as Joe Meek, Johnny Remember Me, and on other people's record players.
Yes.
But then sort of the Beatles, when they came in, sort of took me through. But I was loving so much that was coming on commercial pirate radio.
Yes. So did you come across the John Peel, the Perfume Garden during that period at all?
Not at that period, maybe at a later period, but no, I didn't. I didn't listen to John Peel. I had the good fortune to meet him in the 80s. So when we get to
that golden decade. So what were your parents? Were you born in, was it London or were you else?
Well, I was born in North London, Barnet, and around this area, but also I spent some time out in the country, a bit further out, in a little place called Hitchin. And yeah, it was reasonably comfortable. I wouldn't say there was, it was nice upbringing in a very leafy country sort of edge of town, had fields outside my window. This sort of thing,
birds chirping.
Birds chirping, yeah. And sometimes we'd have cattle out the back and sometimes, cabbages. Giant. I know. I've never seen them since. But we were pretty young. But you could run underneath a canopy of cabbages. They must have been up to about 5 or higher. They were huge and had big, thick stalks, and you could run as kids underneath them. Very strange.
Well, yes,
some kind of cabbage. I think maybe for the cattle to eat. I think maybe they've anyway.
Yes, well, we love our agricultural chat. Well, I grew up in the countryside, so I've got a lot of...
Where was that?
This was on the border of Norfolk and Suffolk, so that was the Waveney Valley area. There was places like there's Diss, Bungay, Holston, Hellsworth, that kind of region. But this was a village I grew up, so it was very remote, and there was only a few kids that you could sort of end up playing with, really, as a sort of one's childhood. So summer holidays often felt very long and slightly aimless, I suppose. This being...
Did you not go out to the coast, Blakeney and Cromwell and...
Wells,
Wells,
Cromer and Wells, and occasionally, well, bizarrely, as you mentioned that, my parents used to take us to Sizewell with the idea that the sea was slightly warmer there for obvious
Yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
which we now look back and went, yeah, I'm not sure about that one, dear. But nice thinking. This being the 60s and 70s, so it was the clean energy, and we thought that was quite nice. So a Sizewell and that Walberswick, Southwold, it was more that side.
Southwold, yeah, I've got a history of Southwold.
It's beautiful around there, and actually Holcombe and Wells
Holcombe,
also.
yeah, I know Holcombe, yeah.
So that's always nice. So that's good. But on your sort of blurb, I was looking. Was this true that you were born in Greenland on a stopover flight, a transatlantic flight with your parents?
No.
So where did that story come from?
Oh, it was the 80s, and EMI had very excitable. I was also sharing a manager with the tourist stroke Eurythmics.
Nice.
And these guys came up with this, I didn't care. It's all right.
Yes, well, there you go. But they also
Whatever.
said, did your parents have a kind of cultural or musical interest at this stage in life? Did they sort of have a record collection or a passion for anything?
Yeah. My dad was mad on classical. We had classical music most of the time
Yes.
in
And did
the
you?
house.
Yeah. But your brothers obviously had this big age gap, which was a big thing in my life because obviously mine were 7 and 5 years older, and I worshipped my older brother, thinking he was so cool. And during the 70s, he was into prog rock, and I would happily listen to these records with great enthusiasm and intrigue, wondering. And the work of Rick Wakeman, I just thought the solo work of Rick Wakeman was fascinating. King Arthur and all that malarkey, so that was quite groovy. So with your 60s then, you were obviously still a young kid. So was it sort of 75, 76 that you were sort of leaving school age at that point? Or did you stay on to A-levels and university?
No, I did A levels and college.
What did you excel in?
Economics.
Nice. There you go. Mick Jagger, I think, was also quite keen. I was sort of during the 70s, one was often wanting to be a football player. George Best, Johan Cruyff, people like that. Were you ever a sporty person?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I was football.
and
I
what was your team?
Oh, well, the local team, Hitchin, of course, when I was up there, or Barnet when I was in London. And and the London teams, my favourites, but yeah. So I played a bit, and I got to train with the local town. I went to Hitchin Town. I trained there. But quickly realised that you needed a certain kind of physique to go further in that
Yes.
game.
What position did you used to
I
play?
was attacker. I was goal scorer, glory hunter. George
No.
Best was I thought he was great player.
Yes. In fact, I had George Best football boots I got for Christmas.
Wow.
I know, I was a big George fan. I mean, he'd had his heyday when I'd slightly became obsessed with him, but
Yeah, me too a bit.
it was still, he still had that magical quality. So where did you go to college in the sort of late 70s?
Central London, Poly.
Right. There you go. And at that stage, had you started to form an interest in record collection during your early teens until A-levels?
Well, records. I wasn't a great record buyer after the sort of mid-60s, real young period. So I got into, I went west when I should have been following Roxy Music and David Bowie. I went west. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Neil Young, that kind of thing seemed to
Oh, you
hit
went
the
to
spot.
you went to Did you go
Influenced
to?
by people at college.
Yes, I was going to say you went to Laurel Canyon, didn't you?
No, I don't. I went to California, yeah, but I don't remember going to Laurel Canyon.
I thought that's where they all hung out in LA.
That's where they did. Yes, I see that. I went there in terms of my taste. Yeah, sure. And Americana at that stage.
What, the Eagles?
I certainly wouldn't rule the Eagles out. Yeah. And let's see, Pure Prairie League.
Yes.
And yeah.
And
Yeah.
and a horse with no name. Did that feel quite a profound lyric?
No, I don't think it ever did. But that was 73 or 72. Yeah. I heard it recently. I sing along to that, and I do my own version on acoustic guitar. So.
Well, it's got to be done. I think somehow it is almost the early entry of yacht rock, this kind of genre that's got created, quite recently, talking about yacht rock with people like Toto and the Doobie Brothers and Michael McDonald and people like that. And I think, people trying to change, sort of find where yacht rock began was America was one of those ones that was quite influential, I think. This kind of the 60s had tried and slightly ended on a bad downer, didn't they, with the death of so many people and then Altamont and people having too many drug casualties. So I think the 70s came along and it was a different vibe, really.
Well, certainly the music was going downhill in terms of what was on the radio by the late 60s. And there was a track called Tracy by the Cufflinks. And I was addicted to the radio up until this stage, but this Tracy by the Cufflinks, I turned it off. And it parted me from the radio and put me onto underground things like Jethro Tull and Spooky Tooth and heavy metal gods.
What, Deep Purple?
Deep Purple, yes, sure.
Black Sabbath?
But sorry?
Black Sabbath?
That was a bit much. I think a lot of young people go through this age, and I got it young. I really liked it. And I've retained it a bit. I still have a bit of a head shaker in me. If my tracks are energetic enough, I may, what do they say?
Head bang.
Head bang.
Yes, don't headbutt.
I head bang to it. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, my brother had the Deep Purple albums and a Black Sabbath one.
Deep Purple in rock, of course.
Yes, but there was Fireball and Burn, which were my two favourite songs of theirs, which I thought were just awesome explosions of song and power. It just seemed very exciting. So Tracy by the Cufflinks was a sort of
killed me. It killed me.
It killed you completely.
Killed my commercial perspective. I bought a compilation by Ireland called Nice Enough to Eat. And it had lots of pills on it. So it was an in-joke, but I think they had to change the cover. But anyway, and that had a lot of people like Free and Nick Drake. And it's a great compilation, and really opened my eyes. That did, yeah.
Yes. Oh, so it had people like
Fairport Convention. It's quite a broad range of music, but they're very interesting stuff. I've left off some big names. Jethro Tull are on there. They're all Ireland artists.
So you had Mott the Hoople, Heavy Jelly.
Heavy Jelly. Did you say Heavy Jelly?
Yes.
Absolutely spot on. Heavy Jelly, definitely. Bloodwind Pig are on that.
Yes, Free, Spooky Tooth, Fairport Convention, Quintessence.
Yes. Quintessence were there, and Strangely Strange but Oddly Normal are on there.
Yes,
I've stumped you with that one.
Yes, you have, actually. This is a very...
I think I win.
You do, you. But yeah, so but
Heavy Jelly. That's
I
impressive. You came up with Heavy Jelly.
Heavy Jelly. Yeah, this is where.
And King Crimson, of course, 21st century schizoid man. What kind of effect can that have on a young lad?
Yes, well, that is true. But then, I think it was kind of seeing people like Bowie on Top of the Pops, and then Roxy Music, and I mean there was also some sort of odd and crazy things. Telly Savalas, Benny Hill, songs that sort of left you feeling a bit sort of speechless. And people talking about, I don't know, was it Clive Dunn singing Grandad or something like that? Those sentimental, wishy-washy songs. The 70s was a very tricky decade. It was brilliant and weird at the same time. Its narrative is quite messy, but if you pull it apart, you can find genius, but you can also end up with Clive Dunn, which is not so genius. But
and Joe, what's the matter now?
Yes, it kept Vienna off the #1 spot, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the 70s, if my memory serves me right, began with Clive Dunn's Grandad and ended with a Winifred School choir called Grandma. I think that's that, or I've made it up, but no, I'm sure it's true, actually. I think it was bookend with that. So that kind of says a lot about the 70s, I think. So there you go. When did you start wanting to make music, though, from being somebody obsessed to suddenly thinking, actually, I might try and...
Well, you see, I don't... Well, okay, firstly, I'd got the bug and I was playing. I was doing Bob Dylan versions, and simple chord things and singing along, but just for myself. And then somebody wanted to make a folk band, and very, very primitive. And I got the job of a recorder player and lead guitarist, acoustic guitarist, and we played a few times. So that was the start of that. And they were called Brogs. That was me, one bloke, and who was the singer, and a girl who was another singer. And we played, we would support people like Johnny Silver, but and Richard Digance, maybe the biggest. Maybe we would support them, and mainly in, when you were allowed, what's it called? When you just turn up and they say, all right, you can play.
Oh, right. A sort of...
what's it called?
Yes, quite. I was going to say hotspot, but it's definitely not that, is it? It's called open mic or something.
Thank you.
I know. For a starter of 10, what's it called?
Yeah,
so you were doing open mics. Were you quite kind of serious, introspective and sort of, slightly bohemian folk
I wasn't the writer. I wasn't the singer. I was sort of I was backroom guy playing tasteful parts. Though obviously probably not. And there was some comedy in that too, I think. And then when I got to college, that's when weird things put me in this direction. For example, we're getting to a key moment, but people in the next room or so would have acoustic guitars and you'd play together. And yes, I started writing songs at that point, acoustic songs, maybe a hint of Americana, but maybe a hint of comedy, and we would play. It's true. But the key thing, the thing that completely set a lifetime, was when there were three of us in the band, and one of them was on a business course, and he knew banks. He said, we can get a loan to get a small studio, and we can have it at home and we can work from there. It's an amazing fluke, and we just gave £2 or something, I don't know, £3 each a week. It seemed to have got paid for. And then I was set for life, really.
Blimey, that's amazing. So it's not like the Ponzi scheme, is it? You just, so you just gave somebody. Did you give the bank some money, or did you give this person some money?
We gave him the money, but I mean, a lovely machine, Doc Order, appeared with a tiny little mixing desk, 4-track. It was
Right.
And it was early for this kind of thing to. The other people weren't. In a sense, I was ahead, by 30 years because everybody does it now. Everybody's got their own home recording equipment. But then it was very rare. So it set me a little bit apart when I started to, after a couple of years of that, I started to approach publishing companies.
Right. There you go. You were moving fast. Did you finish your course at the London?
Yeah.
So you came out, and at that stage, you would have been probably at that right age for that kind of next movement, or one of the movements of the 70s, the punk world. Did that kind of interest or intrigue you at all?
Well, no, but I certainly went to plenty of punk gigs with spitting and fighting. It was as you say, I was mixed in that time period. But and in fact, I shared a house with someone from Tom Tyrone from Advertising, a punk band, or was it Alternative TV? I forget. Right. Anyway, so he was underneath. He was a nice lad, but where I was totally influenced by the punks was in their DIY ethos. And this was this is what moved me forward, was DIY from that moment on. So I was able to make, not records, but I was able to make enough doing songs that publishers could be a bit interested. So a big publishing company became interested, signed me up, and they had a studio, and I started working in that studio trying to do songs for artists of the day. But it wasn't my forte, and now there's some pathetic stuff from that period.
Yes, well,
they're trying to please, if you like, but suddenly, I don't know, I got into drugs, I think, psychedelic drugs, and overnight I became really interested in the Beatles. It really affected by them. At the same time, I met a friend who had a synthesizer, and we just. And then the publishing company said, or we didn't know, but I sneak into their 8-track studio all night near Regent Street. It was all night in there. Had to be out by 6 before the cleaners came. And from that, and until we got found out. And I got thrown out, but I'd managed to make 2 singles, DCT Dreams and Tree Line. In the end, I had to carry on doing it myself because everybody couldn't stand to go through the rigmarole of working with me. That took a long time. Yeah, it took a long time. So until I got found out, but luckily we'd got these 2 miraculous tracks together, and that started an interesting kind of journey. When you talk about kind of getting signed by a publishing group, how does that actually work in sort of reality? What does that mean? Do they give you X amount of money and say? Yes, they gave me X amount of money. So I don't know, maybe it was 1,500, was it? Something like that, which was, of course, a whole lot back then. And they was at the first, it was 50-50 split on the writing side. You understand, not the production side.
Yes.
It's just on the tune. When the main money was made in those days from the radio. So 50-50 on that, but also they don't do it anymore, publishing companies, but that publishing company in those days, they'd have their own studio. Southern Publishing had their own studio as well in Denmark Street. but so did Heath Levy in Regent Street. And so they would record you as well. They would pay musicians to perform, so to record, and it was in their building. It was in Regent Street, right next to the Heath Levy offices. So it was a nice, tidy little place, really. So
yes. And how long do you have to be part of that publishing? Is there a time span of it?
No. In that case, and at the cause of terrible tears and terrible woe, when I discovered that all the money I did make from this first single and the next, was not accounted to me, and I was unable to get my catalogue back off Heath Levy. I had to still deal with people who had really robbed me quite badly, because DCT came out everywhere. It was very popular for 1980.
Yeah.
So the short answer is that
Yeah, it's not good. But then was that your relationship with Heath Levy? Was that over after those two singles? Or
no, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I was forced to stay with them. It's life of copyright. It's with them to this day, though it keeps changing hands.
Right.
Of those two singles.
So
those two.
Yeah, so they banked on that and they got... No, I was just wondering, when you then thought, okay, recovered from that kind of horrible thing and then wanted to write the next or release the next thing, did they have any ownership of anything after that?
No. The deal was only, as you say, 4 or 5 years, but they would have life of copyright.
Yes.
50-50. But later I negotiated that down to 25-75 later on, when I fully realised how badly I'd been shafted. See, the company started to go down and they couldn't, the accountant was desperately trying to keep the place going, I suppose, but it killed me really in the 80s. And then even though I was at EMI at that time, it wasn't going to plan really at EMI. No. But I've actually missed out a key moment that Heath Levy also taught me to go and plug my singles myself at Radio 1. And that's what was so great about DCT Dreams, was being able to walk in there and chat my way in up to meet the producers. And they were sort of tickled a little bit being... having the artist, though I pretended I wasn't the artist. And they started playing it on daytime radio, Radio 1.
Yes.
So that's quite a big thing in the 1980.
Well, absolutely. Did John Peel pick up on it?
Yes, he did. He said he thought DCT Dreams was very medieval, for some lyric about it. You hold my heart, it bleeds in your hands. Yeah, I quote. And we met him as well. One day we got some, I was in Heath Levy with a mate, and we found an old rubber glove and we sort of wrapped it around a copy of the single and went up to John's box, pigeonhole, and was just putting it in there when John arrived. So, our weak joke was revealed, but of course he was absolutely charming to us.
Yes, well, it's always nice to get the blessing of John Peel.
Yes, but he wouldn't play my probably bigger song, the second one.
No.
But no matter.
Yes.
He likes to play the first song of everybody.
He does. I think he's very good like that. I suppose he also had the idea that once someone got quite well known, they didn't need the John Peel show. I think he looked at it as like the people he would play in kind of were needing some sort of exposure, whereas once people had got the exposure, that was, other DJs could then sort of play the records. That was the theory anyway. But then, so once that came out, we were into the 80s at this point, and punk had gone. Post-punk was happening, new wave, and there was goth, there was New Paisley. anarcho-punk, and there's the Blitz Kids. Where were you sort of then heading into the 80s? Because you'd finished university, you'd had your
All
first
right.
two.
Well, I guess I'd been influenced, but I went to America and realized all the stuff I was doing with the publishing company was shit. And Gary Newman was blaring. I'd always liked electronic stuff, but it was that I was hearing, I Feel Love and stuff like that. So, yeah. And then I met a friend with a synthesizer, and we put it together in the publishing company. And then I put it on to Radio 1 and Luxembourg and Capital Radio. And then Steve-O, the famous Steve-O. Do you know Steve-O?
Well, yes.
He spotted me and he said, look, we're making an album, Some Bizarre. We want you on the album. So I'm included in that lot as far at that point with The Normal and Depeche Mode and Soft Cell. And he advised me to change my name. He also, in the end, he invited me down one night to Gossips, he said, and I was really stupid. And I didn't go. It was pouring with rain. So I think that was a mistake. I should have gone down there because I would have at least got to meet, some of the coming stars, because that was just before they got famous.
Yes. And but then, so did you then become part of Some Bizarre? Was that you? Did you release anything on that label?
No, in the end, he said DCT Dreams was doing so well that a major label, Hansa Areola, came in and wanted to do it. So he said, and it was on the radio a lot. So he said it's too famous, because he was still a little bit on the cusp. They were just coming, Depeche Mode and Soft Cell and that crowd.
Yes, they were just.
So yeah, so we didn't, but I should have gone down to see him that night.
Yes.
But it was pissing with rain. It really was.
It's easily.
You're forgiving me, are you forgiving me?
Well, I am. We've all been there thinking, I don't fancy tonight. It's raining. But then, your follow up. This is your, Hilly Fields.
That's right.
So when did you? And then you signed for EMI on this, didn't you?
Right. Well, Hilly Fields. I realised that Heath Lever was a bit bent, and they weren't. I don't know if I knew they weren't accounting to me. I didn't realise till too late. But I started making it at a studio in West London called Alvic with Alan James and Alaric Gregovich was my engineer. And so I worked there on my own, really, and I had to sell a lot of stuff and to get people to come and to make it. But in the end, I ran out of cash and I had to eat humble pie and go back to Heath Levy to their studio and finish. This is 16-track now. And then I sort of made it myself and hawked it around, but didn't get much interest. But then I went to EMI, and the A&R that wanted to see me, by accident, Hugh Stanley Clark saw me in receptions, just one of these accidents that I keep getting, and bang, he was interested because he knew DCT Dreams as well from previously, and so he signed me up. So Hugh was more the Marillion Kraftwerk side. The next office over was Dave Ambrose with Kajagoogoo and Duran Duran. I mean, different people had different bands that they promoted.
Well, interesting enough, I did an interview with a member of the Farmers Boys who were from East Anglia.
Yes.
And they were on EMI, and he said, well, yes, we were signed on the same day as Kajagoogoo, and there was a picture of the Farmers Boys and Kajagoogoo together, which you couldn't have got two more different looking bands if you'd paid a stylist. But yes, but you probably can't remember the Farmers Boys. But
oh no, I remember the Farmers Boys. They weren't too busy. All I can think of is their arrangements were tidy.
They were very tidy. And they also, yeah, they suffered with a drum machine that wasn't kind at that time. Never mind. It's under water under the bridge. So then, yeah. So EMI. So did they say we'll sign you for a deal?
Oh no, just a single.
Really?
Yeah.
They said,
But then they would fund my recording efforts. Yeah. So I'd made Hilly Fields and the B-side 49 Cigars, which was quite an adventure making it. But yeah, and they thought, fuck, he can produce. He can produce his own stuff.
yes.
And that may have been, but with all four sides of these two singles, they sounded reasonably well produced. So they let me produce myself, the demos anyway. I didn't actually go into 24 track. I stayed on 16 cheaper studios. I felt more at home in cheaper studios, but I'd sold all my gear to make Hilly Fields, and EMI only really gave me money to keep me in food and rent. So I didn't have home gear, and this was catastrophic. And I didn't get home gear back till the end of the decade, 88, and that was a terrible time. The break in my recording schedule, lifelong recording schedule, was 84 to 88. And a terrible time in which I became acquainted with some of the lower status, the lower morale that you can have, the very bottom. So the 80s were very bad after Hilly Fields, but EMI's sort of were quite nice. They extended the contract. They sent me people along to try and work with me. And one bloke was Cliff from Thomas Dolby.
Oh yes.
And, I remember I went to a meeting with him to see if we would get on. He's a percussionist, Cliff from Thomas Dolby's band, and I played him something that I just loved, something that I just got off the radio and tapes, and I played it to him, and he said, "This is really shit." He said, "Is this just one bloke? This is really terrible." And I said, "Oh, well, we aren't going to get on, obviously." So we didn't do anything. And the music I'd played was Blue Monday by New Order.
Yes, he didn't
see quite the way, but I mean, I quite liked that album. That's fairly influential for me. The New Order. That
yes.
Power and Lies and Corruption album.
Well, absolutely. So were you still doing psychedelics at this stage?
Yeah, sure.
I just wondered.
Well, no, as things got worse and worse, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't.
It just was. So was because at that time, we had the Trevor Horn production sound that appeared.
We've missed the whole Trevor Horn saga.
Have we?
He came after Hilly Fields. He wanted to do my next track. And so I had a long conversation with him. But once again, I had made my own tracks and I didn't necessarily have the right attitude. I think that's what he felt. He said by the end of the 2 hours, he said, "Well, I think you want to be your own boss, Nick." And so we didn't do anything. But he had some funny ideas. He wanted to take the Yes album, the crescendos and dips and energy flow of Yes, one of the albums, and to remake that with me singing. It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have been up to it. And so I also felt that this wasn't really me, this level of pressure, and I wasn't in for it particularly.
No. So. God, that's because actually, bizarrely, I had that moment where I did an interview with, I think, the woman from Dollar, a band called Dollar that came out and she'd persuaded Trevor Horn to produce her first single. At the time, he was like, "Well, I'll never produce anything," but she thought, yeah, he'd be quite good, and from that was the beginning of that career of his that
it's true.
which was so famous, really. So,
yeah, but in some ways, one can be glad. They said to me, "Yeah, we'll sign you to ZTT." I said, "Yeah, come to us," but the deal was really. It was not a friendly deal, and I've heard this said by such as Frankie and the German one, the German
propaganda.
Propaganda. But they're all saying that they're terrible, terrible deals. Of course, it was very expensive to record with Trevor because he will take so long doing anything. He was, he's perfectionist. And that's what I remember Pet Shop Boy saying at the time, said, he did I Probably Would song with Trevor Horn. He said it was very expensive. So recouping on these songs was not always straightforward.
Yes. So then as the hazy 80s kind of drifted by and yes, you were out of action on that front. So when was your first step back into music during this decade?
Right. Well, the first step was Margaret Thatcher stepped in.
Yeah, she was there in 79.
And she fixed it that houses became very valuable and people who were renting suddenly could get money off their landlord if the landlord wanted you to leave, to vacate the premises.
Yes.
He didn't have the rights. Tenants were protected, and so they had to pay money. And after long, protracted negotiations, I left for 10,000 quid. And that meant I could buy my studio and move to somewhere else. I moved out to Catford and tried to make house music was coming in the late 80s. And I really liked Mars and Crush and the tracks coming through. DCT Dreams was made with a drum machine. So when the house music came, it was the same.
Yes.
It was. I could adapt to it pretty easily, and I like the linear formats. But I didn't make stuff that I liked. And then what happened is in '89, I met a bloke who wanted to put on an acid house.
Brave. Had you met Paul Rowland before that and recorded one of? No,
Paul Rowland. Oh yes, I had. Sorry, Paul Rowland will be 84. I know. I remember that because I was in a bad way. I was in a very bad way at that stage. Yeah, because my EMI contract fizzled away. I mean, a few Hilly Fields got played one weekend, quite a lot, and there was a psychedelic movement there. But I think that was mainly media led. But sorry, I jumped back there. So we were talking about this period, 88 now.
Yes.
And and then he put on a party, but it didn't. It got stopped by the police.
So this isn't. But that wasn't because I thought you contributed tracks on that Paul Rowland album during the.
I sang some harmony.
You sang. How did you meet Paul at that stage?
He called up.
Right.
He must have got the number off EMI.
Yes. Was that quite a relief that somebody wanted you back playing music again?
Certainly, in a very bleak period. Yeah, it wasn't a bad thing. Yeah, he gave me some money as well.
Nice. Well, but then yes, the electronic world of a guy called Gerald and the Orb started to appear, didn't they? John Peel used to start playing all these interesting little numbers. So acid house, as they said in the back in the 80s.
All right. So what happened was this first party didn't go. I became part of the organisation. I didn't have much to do. I'd had a side single out on RCA in '89 that didn't go as well as hoped. So anyway, I was ready for anything. And so my friend who was putting on parties, he became adept at confusing police and delaying the police at the site of illegal parties. And then he sort of learned the trade. And that summer, we went to a lot of the parties and were affected by the drugs that were going around at that time. Became very involved in the organising and just the acid house movement, and some of the parties were fantastic. They're some of the best times.
Had you become aware of those places, people like, was it Spiral Tribe, and then there was Castle Morton? Were they kind of on your radar at that stage?
No. My time would be 89, and we're talking Energy was the organisation. Sunrise was another one. World Party was another one. These were the major ones. Biology, but there were northern ones. But we were essentially southern, and it was great, absolutely great. And the people, you see them writing in YouTube threads. People are just yearning to have times as good as that. It really was just the greatest, and had some fantastic times and met. Then the end of the summer, too late, my friend put on his party. And this was one of the most famous parties of all in the Acid House era, because it would bookended it. The police arrived in force. The security force fought with the police. BBC cameras were there. It made number 2 on the news at 10. We managed to, the card party went ahead. It was a wonderful night. But amazing events that took place after that. We got home, and then suddenly some bogus police broke in and tied us up. I mean, this is just the craziest stories. And then Thatcher said, whoever organised this notorious party, we've got to put them behind bars. Right. So we had to go on the run. It was great. People quite liked having a fugitive around. So it wasn't too harsh. But anyway, it quietened down. But unfortunately, a couple of people got custodial sentences.
Yes. So what was that particular event called, or did it not have a name?
It was called Fantasy.
Fantasy, right.
PH, with a PH.
Oh, of course.
You'll find it on the YouTube, I'm sure.
So what year was that? Was that
89. 89.
89, blimey. So yes, still Thatcher was in power at that stage.
And yes, indeed. And my friend, I met a DJ at that party, and he said, "Oh, shall I come round and shall we try?" So we did some music together, and by April of 90, we had made a track, and a friend's brother had a label, put it out, and it was in the charts by June. Had a wonderful success. We were known as Psychotropic. And then we proceeded to have even bigger records. And we started dance chart. We would hit the top 10.
Yes.
3 or 4 times. We were Psychotropic. And then we signed to London Records as Freefall, featuring Psychotropic. And we had big records in Italy, but in England mainly, in the dance chart, till about 83, something like that, when my partner decided to take a different route. But it was on our own label. That's the beauty of it. So we were running the whole thing, and it was a DIY. DIY keeps coming. I hope I mentioned that DCT Dreams originally arrived firstly by me doing it DIY and paying for the pressing and the sleeves and such. So I was saying that punk had gave me an independent, a DIY bravery to just do it myself.
Yes. So with the psychotropic and also freefall, were you still was this with Gavin
It was,
Mills?
yeah.
So you two were sort of, did he go into more of a different sort of musical,
He did.
and
See, I
were
would,
you much more trance and
yes,
psychedelic, and he was
yes,
more?
that's right. I would, yeah, trancy, if you like, but I was more energetic. That was the big problem. Gavin wanted to go towards more jazz style, and neither of us could play jazz. And you needed a better studio, so he moved himself to do that. You know, I realized that he had to follow his muse, and he does it to this day. He has to do what he feels. So there were no arguments. We got on very well, me and Gavin.
Yes. So how
And
long
we've got a record coming out in the next month, or an original is being reissued with a new sleeve. And
and is that freefall or psychotropic?
no, that's Psychotropic, and that's on All-City Records.
Right. So which is the song that's been
Only for the Headstrong?
only for this was from God, that's from 1990. That's such a long time ago, isn't it?
It is.
It's quite freaky deaky. So why the interest in reissuing this after?
Because I don't want to sound big-headed, but it's got a quality to it. It's very minimalist, but it really speaks of its time. And I don't know, a lot of people heard it because it got played everywhere in these becoming legal by 1990 legal raves.
Yes.
And so in our period, 1991, 92, the raves were legal because the police had become very sophisticated at stopping illegal ones.
Well, and then we had Castle Morton, which kind of could, and the John Major moment. So that slightly did it. Were you going to festivals performing at this stage, or were you just in a studio releasing?
No, we did. I'm just thinking we did clubs. We didn't actually do any festivals. You're right. I mean, we maybe by the time 1990, we'd sort of felt, and every year I noticed that people from 88 felt that by 89 it had all lost it and the whole scene had nothing. And I think we felt that by 1990. I mean, we played clubs. We played the Town and Country. We played Toronto. We played a bull ring in Marbella, Spain. And we did smaller gigs, but not many. And we would take actors in lobster suits. So our theme, our logo is a lobster.
Yes. Well, it's got to be done. I mean, did ecstasy, was that a kind of a game changer? Because I spoke to quite a few people who said, taking ecstasy was like suddenly their musical world and everything just changed during the next 5 years. Did that have a profound effect on you as well?
Yes, it did. Oh, absolutely. No question. And you see, I have contemporaries, musicians and the like, and they don't understand the new world. And I think dance music, in a sense, has carried on from way back in the early 90s to now. I feel like I got the code, and I'm not frightened by pop music that I hear today. I can enjoy it. That's what I'm saying. I don't have that hostility to the various dance developments, because basically they haven't developed massively since the early 90s. That's just an opinion.
Well, yes, the superstar DJ suddenly appeared, which was...
Yes, well, that's a bit later. That's after my time.
That is. So then how do you navigate the 90s? Because obviously this is the decade where...
All right. It died. Psychotropic, but we still occasionally I'd go to his studio and we'd have fun because we were good friends. There was a blank period in the late 90s, where I was doing Nick Nicely. I started going back to Nick Nicely. I had a little system, I'm just trying to think, was it? Yeah, it was an Atari computer with a Fostex 8-track. Yeah, it's coming back. I had a little system and I would turn out tracks, some of which are resonating now. And so I kept doing that without much success and working. I was working as a driver. I would do any job that came my way to keep above the breadline and work in the evenings or whatever I could on my stuff.
Yes.
And then in 2002, Sanctuary. Oh, no. Firstly, a bloke called Jeff Brown phoned up. Could he please just talk to me? Because he wanted to do a magazine article. He did his article in Record Collector, I think. Then David Wells, who runs 10th Planet, a well-known psychedelic label, caught wind. He said I sent him some stuff I had that I'd been making then and outtakes from the old days. And he loved it and put out my first album of many, many, many since, Psychotropia in vinyl in 2003, and then Sanctuary, which was a bigger label at the time, put out the CD. And I was sort of launched in the 2000s, and I was particularly taken. People that followed me were the Los Angeles-based American, I call them American lo-fi, but they're DIY home recorders. I think that's where we have a connection, such as people like Ariel Pink and John Mouse, who started contacting me. And we became, I was a pioneer. They felt I was a pioneer of their scene. And they would come through my town and I would hang out with them, and they were very kind and nice to me. And then later they would put me on their tours, and I would play, open for them. And yes, so that's really given me a nice, I feel very at home with other DIY bedroomers. I don't mind playing on their bills.
Yes.
And it's a different world. We don't have high studio fees, so people can spread out and be themselves. And it's suited me very well. And if we just run through, because very quickly, I think I've had 6 Nick Nicely albums out, or is it 5? Maybe it's 5. That's not including Psychotropia, so maybe it is 6.
Yes.
And
so was that first one? Was it Space of a Second?
No, that's the second. That's the second one. The first one is called Psychotropia. Don't get it mixed up with Psychotropic.
Right.
Psychotropic is the dance music.
Yes.
Duo. Psychotropia is the name of the first Nick Nicely album.
I know, it's very. Yeah, I'm glad you're emphasising this, so I will hopefully remember these facts when I get tested later. So yes, because Sanctuary was part of Castle, wasn't it? It was
yes,
one of those.
It was.
It's and that obviously must have given you a little bit more, I don't know, archiving or sort of a bit more financial clout of some description.
A little bit. Oh, they don't give you much money, but it certainly gave me some encouragement. But the space of the second album, the next album, was very, very, very long and arduous and intense. Bit of an obsession, that one. And it didn't come out till 2014. And I probably started at 2006, so it's very dense and intense. But there you are.
Yes, well, it's still, your love of psychedelia is embedded in this.
It appears to be, yeah. They're calling me last year. Reviewing my last single, that I'm the godfather. Record collector says I'm the godfather of hypnagogic.
Well, God, that's a nice one to be.
That's what they said. Yes. So I think what they mean is I cover all. I have such a long line of influences that I maybe mix and match a bit. Some of my sort of late teen albums were fairly electronic and modern, but I've sort of reverted a bit to more 60s influences.
Yes.
But I'm enjoying my work anyway.
So when you followed up Space of a Second and Sleep Safari, did you
Safari was Tapete, sorry, yeah.
Did they contact you, or did you contact them at this stage?
Low Recordings contacted me about Space of a Second. Tapete knew me because I knew a drummer who works locally, and he knew them, and he recommended me to them. And so that's how I got my deal there. But I was, so that's 2000. The album Sleep Safari is 2017.
Yes. And then sort of, but was the Balearic beat sound, was that coming into your conscious?
Balearic beat sound in essence, well, hang on, it depends what you mean by Balearic, but I wasn't making anything that could remotely be connected to acid house, but some of my drum machine work could vaguely be called Balearic. Sometimes they say Balearic. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know. I'm a bit of a mix. I'm only looking really for feelings. I'm just actually kicking through the whole lot, trying to find emotions. And sometimes you find emotions in some work you're doing and you're happy with it. But of course, as you go through it millions of times, it's difficult to keep that emotion. And that's where the difficulty may lie, because you're searching for that emotional thrill, rather than people are so focused on whether I use a synth or whether I use a wall of guitars or a wall of strings, or it's emotion really that one's looking for all the time. I'm looking for anyway.
Yes. And were you starting to play live again at this stage?
Yes. Well, the live was biggest, I suppose. I mean, as part of my era with Sanctuary, and just before Aerial Pink, I had a full band, 6-piece band, and we played a festival. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Nick Nicely and the Nick Nicely's Unlived Lives, and we played Green Man 2009. We also played Terror Stock 2008, me and a 6-piece. The guitarist was from Bevis Frond. The drummer was from Johnny Moped. Do you know Johnny Moped?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah. And so, but they're all based in Brighton, and we put it all together through MySpace. And that was a thrill to do that, but keeping 6 people going was, you couldn't.
Yes. Yeah. And had you sort of, was Brighton your base at this stage?
It was only at my base for a period. No, I'm based in Hamburg, but I have a friend in Brighton, and I was able to stay at her place for a month or 2 to rehearse before gigs.
Yes, because it's when did you move to Hamburg?
2012, 11.
Right. So there you go. So when did you, after Sleep Safari, what is your next kind of project at this stage?
Oh, well, straight after Sleep Safari, it's probably not. If you're looking at Discogs, it's not there. But if you put it on WikiLeaks, the next one should be, you've done Sleep Safari, so the next one is Secret Life of Chance. Could be Secret Life of Chance. If you're looking at Discogs, it won't be there.
No, it's definitely not there, is it?
It's on WikiLeaks. If you look at Nick Nicely, WikiLeaks.
Yes.
Wikipedia. There's a good list there. That's the only one I can be bothered. I tried putting up a new single just the other day, and it didn't go down well. I must go back to try and put it up again. I'm trying to put them on Discogs, but I'm a bit lazy. We've missed out, of course, loads of records that came out in the teens with Fruits de Mer. I've put out, 10 records with them probably. And they put out the album after Secret Life of Chance, which is called Afterworld, which is a collection of demos. That should be on every list, Afterworld.
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's so Afterworld. So has that been reissued recently?
No. It came out originally in 23. Was it 22? I forget. 22 maybe, is it? Afterworld.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
And yeah.
God, it's good. You have got so many. Yeah, so I'm just trying to capture your narrative actually at this stage of which one comes where and your recording processes.
Yeah.
It's quite there's quite a lot, isn't there, on this?
Yeah, there is. And I've also missed out bits.
Pardon?
I've also missed out bits.
Yes. Any critical bits?
Well, no, not really, but just little minor partnerships with other people and little bits and pieces here and there. No, I wouldn't say critical bits, no.
No. Who else have you, apart from Gavin, who else have you collaborated with?
Vuverk, that's DJs. Yeah, you've got to be honest, I'm not enthusiastic. Oh, Jesse Gallagher. We did a great song called we did a great song, me and Jesse Gallagher, who I met when I was over in the States, when I was touring the States. Jesse agreed to drive us. And so, yeah, we were supporting John Mouse, and that was 1919. And so I with him, but no real names. Mogard, Abel Mogard, they call themselves. They do big drones, massive analog drones. You wouldn't expect maybe people to follow it, but you'll be surprised. They did a remix of London South, which has gone very well, and for them, for me, and so Abel Mogard, but I'm at a loss to think of anyone. I'm not very enthusiastic, and people are always offended when they ask, and you say no, thinking that you think you're better than them, but that's not the case. It's just that it takes me such a long time to get anything together.
Yes,
and it frustrates people to work with someone as slow and laborious, glacial. So
you obviously enjoy the process of how you do, though.
Yes, I think that's true.
Yes,
and sometimes sometimes not. I've got to be honest. Sometimes no, but mainly, there are still moments where I think, oh yes, I'm happy I'm doing this.
Yes, and the Secret Life of Chance, which came out at the start of the decade, this was on another label, wasn't it? Was this your own?
No, that was on my own label. No label.
And how did you cope with this? And how are you coping with this bizarre decade? Is it going to plan, or are you finding it quite hard as an artist?
There's no plan. You get to an age where you're just happy you're healthy, and the main thing, I'm sort of stuck with the 60s view of pop music as art. I think I'm only happy I'm as good as my last piece of music. So I'm sort of stuck in that, really. And if my music is going well, then I'm just walking on air. And if not, then it's the opposite.
Yes, my God, that's a difficult one, isn't it? So yes, so what are you working on at the moment? What's your
I'm 8 tracks through the next album, which is going to be called Mike Hall is Calling. And it's all my sort of more modern stuff, though it's actually quite hypnagogic. It's got a lot of, I'm noticing 60s vibrations, but I mean, it's about the songs and about emotions, really. And the new ones are on Spotify. Sorry, they're on Bandcamp. They're not on Spotify. I'm too lazy to put them out, but I will get round to putting them online proper. Bandcamp isn't online proper.
right?
My opinion. It's just I just play it to a little group there and just see if they like any of it.
Yes.
But there's a lot of interest in the old stuff. So on Spotify, there's 14,000 listeners a month.
Yes, I noticed that you're
So there's some people like it. That's all I can say. But not every platform is like that.
no, but so what other countries are you? Because I think on Spotify you can see where you're.
Yeah, America's my main, almost my main place. Los Angeles, and when these artists from there like Vinyl Williams and Morgan Delt come over, it's amazing for me because they know my work intimately. And here in Germany, I'm not known pretty much at all. So it's really nice to be with people on the same sort of wavelength a little bit. So I should go over there a bit more. But anyway, we'll see.
It's a lot of it. Did you ever sort of pick up in on the Berlin sort of techno or dance scene? Because that, again, speaking to various people who live there, was describing what it's like in Berlin and the dance movement. Did that ever sort of capture your imagination at all?
I used to go to a festival outside Berlin called Fusion, which is very famous for the Berliners. I can enjoy it. This is what I'm saying. I got the key to it all in 1989. I got, as I was saying to you, with the acid house scene, and so I'm able to understand and enjoy a hard techno, which is, it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think being this wide in taste, but yeah. I can enjoy some, obviously not all. I think if I'm to get me dancing, it needs to have a bit of swing. I need
right. So because I remember, John Peel sort of picking up on these compilations. It was it FFRR Records? They did a Chicago house. There was Detroit. There was kind of the ambient scene with people like the Orb, and then there was a guy called Gerald. I mean, and
KLF, don't miss out KLF.
The KLF, which was, yes, the Great White Album and various other little bits they did. I mean, were you immersed? And the people like the Beloved came along.
Yeah, I knew their producer very well. In fact, I made with him a record that's on Psychotropia album.
Right.
Martin Phillips. So yes, the Beloved and KLF and Pacific State, and
did you feel in sort of that 87 that it was the second summer of love? Did you?
87 was too soon. I didn't peak until 89, but I was enjoying some of the music I was hearing on the radio. But no, I wasn't. It wasn't until I crossed over into the acid house mentality at the illegal parties.
Yes,
I was able to fully, and Guru Josh. Have you heard of Guru Josh?
Oh God, yes. Well, interesting enough, because I saw him in Great Yarmouth and Adamski around the same time.
Oh yeah,
and I loved and bizarrely, I did an interview with both of them, but unfortunately, I don't have the tape. But the Adamski one was really strange because it was an amazing night and the place was absolutely rocking. Yes. And then when he came out of that venue, these police cars just came around the corner and just boxed him in and basically arrested him for the night because they thought he was going on to an illegal rave, and that was the end of that. But I did love this one particular album he did. I think it was Live and something, a live cassette that I had, which just was brilliant. And Guru Josh again was amazing. I mean, time for the Guru. So
yes, we knew him a bit, and we would hang around with him a bit. And yes, he liked his yeah.
Well, he I think was he. And then I thought, I wondered what had happened to him, but then he died quite recently.
He died. Yeah, I think he went out doing what he wanted in Ibiza. He moved to Ibiza and didn't come back, basically.
Yes, which was very sad. I think it was sounded like it. I think it sounded like it was a suicide, wasn't it?
Oh, you know more than me. You know more than me. But what I remember about Guru Josh, and this may interest you, I don't know, we were there hanging out, and there was all these pictures of him, one as a new romantic, one as a punk. And I said to him, who are all these, Josh? Now, what's all that about? He said, well, those are what I was before I took ecstasy and got the beat.
Right. And there you go. Yes, he certainly got the beat. Yes, he did make a bad mistake, though, about the poll tax, didn't he? That was the thing that killed his...
did he? I remember the law, against the law. Was it? That's not the one, is it?
No, he said he thought the poll tax was a good idea.
Did he?
which was quite going against what everyone else felt.
Dear.
He hadn't thought that one through, had he?
I didn't know that. But he was an electric performer, and he would play at the 89 parties and the whole place. It was a group thing. It really was feeling part of a massive group, and the MC would say, we are all one over the favourite tune, and it really meant you really did think it was true. That's we'd all been through the stress of getting to the party as part of it, but everyone was so loving, and so I understand how people can get into these groups and become overtaken by it.
Were you excited about the kind of the sound that started to appear from that Manchester scene, the Hacienda, with that world of Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, Primal Screams, Soup Dragons? Did that at all interest you?
I was a bit earlier. I was New Order, really. But I mean, I listened to them and I could enjoy them, but I wouldn't go out of my way. But then, you often don't.
No, what's
coming. But I mean, I've read about it a lot and seen it. Yeah, and some of the Happy Monday singles were good. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's suddenly
interesting ideas with Grape as well. It was interesting.
Yes, but then it was also people like Danny Ramplin coming along.
Yeah.
And such like. And it just seemed to be an explosion that took us into the 90s, kind of quite interesting. It was just an interesting decade because obviously it was started quite grey and then sort of ended in that kind of euphoric kind of new Labour period where suddenly there was a lot of money floating about and optimism.
Optimism. I remember.
You can remember optimism. Yeah, there's not much about it anymore, is there?
Yeah.
No. So look, Nick. So what have we got potentially for this coming year? Have we got anything coming out?
Well, I'll just bring them out. I should be bringing one out now. It's not a problem. I got 3 tracks already on Bandcamp, ready to go. Really, I got videos for 2 of them, and homemade videos, of course. And so I'll be putting them out. I'm working to finish tracks. I've got 8 for the new album, Mike Hall is Calling, and I will have I will wait till I've got 10. So that could possibly take right till autumn or later because I'm so slow.
Yes.
But I'm liking it so far.
Methodical.
So far, but I don't look at any other plans. I got no thoughts. Whatever happens, things tend to happen, other people do them. Other people call you and say, "Can you play here? Do you want to do a compilation or something?" People tend to come to me. Yeah.
And so is Bandcamp your best place for people to
New stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick Nicely Official, yeah. For new stuff. I just, as soon as I finish something, I stick it up there. And the beauty of Bandcamp is you can replace it. So that means I can keep it updated. So if I think I've finished it each time, but then over a period of weeks, I realized that it could be better. So yeah, I can upgrade it. Whereas in YouTube, for instance, you can't change the audio. You're stuck with the audio you stick on the YouTube video.
Yes. So your latest one this month is the one, Or a Broccoli Afternoon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'm actually in the worst phase of the process where you just hate the living daylights out of it and need seriously to get away from it. And maybe I'll come back in a month and see areas where it could be better. But I'm slightly disappointed, but it's definitely of the right style and it'll fit on the album very well. So I'm not going to get too low about it. Usually it passes. And certainly another song there, The Day That Never Came, I certainly hated that with a passion. And maybe, 5-6 months later, so a friend calls up and says, "Fucking hell, that's a great track." And I'm going, "What?" And I listen back and I go, "Oh, yeah, maybe, I can start to see quality."
Right.
It's just overdoing it. It's a question, you just overdo it. Oh, you hear it too many times.
Yes. Well, The Secret Life of Chance, you're pleased with that, aren't you?
I quite like this parts of The Secret Life of Chance. I'm just trying to think what's on there. But there's a nice sleeve made by my mate. And yes.
You've got all Along the Watchtower, Doors of
Yes. I've had an openly abusive review of All Along the Watchtower, but it's not fussed. He was nice about other things on the album, but he was horrified. I still quite like it. It's got a bit of guitar in there, a melange of guitar playing in there.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit Wishbone Ash. It's got a bit of Wishbone Ash in there, I reckon, in the guitars. Twin guitar.
I saw them live once, actually.
Did you?
It was it felt like a long evening of guitar solos. And there was a band called Spirit who was supporting, and I thought...
Oh, of course. Well, that's something, isn't it?
It is, dear old Randy California. We loved him. So it was good. It was good. I mean, do you get influences, in other arts as well? Do you sort of draw on other things? Or is it mostly
yes. Yes. Surrealism, follow. I love the 30s, 20s. De Chirico, these are very interesting artist, and how he did his naive work, a surrealist, with these few images. And then he went to Italy and saw Titian and decided, I'm going to try and do that. And he couldn't get near it. And his career went right down. But every now and then he'd do a fake original one, like he did in the 1920. I'm talking 1920. And obviously Dali,
Yes.
I think he's hated by critics because they're not needed to explain it. It's not like they can tell us things. I think Dali communicates very clearly. I mean, he's to be a good surrealist, maybe it's good to be a realist as well, and he's certainly one of those, and he can mix the two. So I like surrealism, and my sleeves, the Secret Life of the one after that. Oh no, it's a single. Mike Hall is Calling. I'm confused now. Yeah,
right.
Mike Hall is Calling.
What was the first?
Have you got Mike Hall is Calling there?
Let's have a look. I was looking through.
Something else. Oh,
yes.
Sorry,
well, I was looking at Michael Hall is Calling.
That's right.
So that's wow. That is quite surreal, isn't it? That leaves Roger Dean covers looking quite ordinary. That is amazing. So who's your artist, by the way?
It's an AI. It's made by machines.
Right.
And I think that's the one area of AI that really is worth looking at and valid, and that is the very creative edge, because it can come up with very interesting ideas that, okay, you may say some of them are taken from other artists, but somehow the way they can mix it all together can, for me personally, can be quite exciting. And I like the various perspectives in that sleeve, where the distances are jumbled up. And, for me, having a sleeve like that, it's like having a peak Dali as my cover to my album, a peak unseen Dali from the 30s on my sleeve. And, okay, reservations about AI, yes, I accept there are some, but that's just, to me, I like to look at it, gives me pleasure. So yes, I do like surrealism. I have a bit of a taste for impressionism and fauvism around about the turn of the century. So yeah,
yes,
yeah.
That's always interesting, isn't it? But look, Nick, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been amazing. I'm glad we got it together. Oh yes, Saturday afternoon. No, it was fine. We got the date. We got the wrong day, didn't we? Or like.
Well, no. I'll tell you what. All my appointments with dentist and hairdresser or whatever, they send you the day before. They send you an email reminding you the next day. So when it came, I saw it, would have seen it, not the one where you tried to make an arrangement. I don't know where that one came from. That was off my page. But I thought, oh, he's efficient. I said, he's efficient that he's emailing the day before to make sure I'm reminded. You were emailing, to do the show then and there.
Yes, I know. There you go. But anyway.
So I was a little bit of an old man.
Yes, well, no, I'm always... So just on because I'm always keen and find these things interesting. You mentioned on the Surrealist, Titian, didn't you?
Titian is a Renaissance artist that De Chirico went to see and saw the perfection of his realism and what a beautiful ceilings and paintings, and he tried to do it himself without the necessary skills. And so what you had, instead of his surrealist symbols, you had him trying to do a Titian, like somebody who isn't very good at perspective and very good at detail. He didn't have the skills to do it. So in order to feed himself, he would make the original, he would go back and make surrealist copies of his stuff he would do in his earlier period. I find that interesting because, of course, a lot of old guys have gone through their period and they're making music like they try to do new stuff, but you get typecast. Anyway.
Yes, this is true, actually. But look, well, thank you ever so much. And if you want, I can always send you the link as well, if you want to.
Yes, please do.
Put it on your.
I'll probably hate it, but.
Well, it's easily done, but it's nice. But thank you ever so much again for your time. I really appreciate this, and have a lovely year. And look forward to your next albums.
Okay, cool.
Take care, Nick. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye. And that, dear listener, as you gather, is the end of that interview. A massive thank you to Nick for giving me the time for the chat, really. Massive thanks there. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, yes, it's the usual social media platform sites. Just do, C86 show, my name, David Eastaugh. And yes, get in touch. Otherwise, have a great week. Stay safe.